The clouds. Hello, everybody, and welcome on this very warm April 15th. Happy Tax Day, everybody. I hope everybody managed to make the deadline. Oh, here we go. We're chewing. Um, so I think I get everybody in now. All right. And so I know that you all are dying to know that certain meetings normally held in municipal offices are being held remotely with adequate alternative means of public access and where required public participation provided in accordance with House Bill number 62 of the 194th General Court, which extend the governor's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting laws, Mass General Laws, Chapter 38, Section 20 until June 30th, 2027. Meetings are typically rebroadcast on Frontier Community Access Television and are available on YouTube, the town's YouTube. Um, all right, we'll call the meeting to order. It's 5:02. Members present. Carolyn Ness,
Yes.
Pam Predmore,
Yes.
Blake Gilmore,
Yes.
Kathy Sylvester,
Yes.
and Lily Dwight, all present and accounted for. And we have one guest, Jason Clark, and we're going to assume that is Jason unless the chat says Melody. All right. Any amendments, changes, things you want to say about the minutes from last week's meeting? The 8th.
Well,
Nope.
on number
Make a
five,
motion to approve them.
wait,
Wait, Kathy's got something to
Oh,
say.
I wrote the minute,
okay.
but there's number five.
Yeah.
I didn't know the name of the person. Let me just read it here. Alex shares she's talked with so and so. I
Oh,
don't know,
dash. And our bylaws aren't
based in
based in
science and
science
art.
and are arbitrary.
Who
Oh,
is that
about the
person?
septic. Alex, do you recall?
Oh, probably. I don't remember who spoke with. I would guess Ned because I talked with our health inspector
Okay.
about.
I think it was the health inspector. I don't know
Yeah.
his last name, but
Do you want me? I'm in there right now. I can make the amendment to say talked with the health inspector and just say that,
sure.
and then we won't get his name wrong.
Yeah.
Okay. So I would entertain any motions regarding the amended minutes.
I say fine. Make that motion.
I'm making a motion to accept the minutes as amended. How's that?
There we go. Beautiful. Have I got a second?
Yes.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor, Kathy,
Yes.
Blake,
Yes.
Pam,
Yes.
Carolyn,
Yes.
Lily, yes. Unanimous. Okay, so for this evening, our big update is to be on impressions from the site visit. And so Blake, Kathy, Alex, and I were all there. Kathy, do you have anything you want to share?
I was glad to see, people coming back, right? We had, I don't know, how many developers did we have? At least three?
I counted five.
5.
Five, thank you. And to get their feedback of what the problems were before, some of which we're working on to make it a little more
Mm-hmm.
attractive. Still, I think that I'm not convinced we're going to get an application, or a proposal, I should say. I don't know. What did you think?
Well, let's go around and take notes, but then let's talk about that. Alex, well, actually, Blake, what,
Well, I talked to a few and they seemed to be energetic about doing it. And I was asking how many units, and they were talking more around 30 that they thought would be feasible. Any more than that would be, they just didn't think it'd be right to do that much on that property. So they were thinking about 30 and they were still interested. So
Great. Do you remember which developer that was, Blake?
community something or other.
Oh yeah,
Is
community
that
development. The one out of Amherst.
They're based out of Boston, but they've got stuff all over the state.
Or
Interesting.
Northampton.
Oh,
Sorry.
yeah, that's right, Northampton.
Yeah.
Mm,
Is that Community Action Pioneer Valley? No?
I think it's Valley Community Development, maybe.
Okay. so many.
So they didn't sign in for the RFP originally, but anyone who was there at the site visit today was required to sign in. So we will have all their contact info and what organizations they work for. It'll be part of the record. So
Both their representatives were from here, though. They were
yeah,
from this
Local.
area. Yep. They
Anything
did,
else?
so you know, they did both. They could do the development and be able to manage the property.
Yeah, good. That's what we need because the town does not want to be in the business.
Yep.
Any other things that stood out to you, Blake?
No, there's a couple of people that were looking, but they weren't talking much. So I just basically was listening to the rest of them as they went. So
Cool. All right. Alex, what about you? What did you learn?
well, actually, I thought it was interesting. A couple were interested that we were designated as a rural and small town housing community of choice. So that was made official on Monday. That opens another grant opportunity for a bunch of different things. So, and there's no match required for that funding source. And just a lot of them walked right through the buildings, so I think it's kind of telling that the rehab might not be as viable. But I did relay that, we still are a historic town and it would be nice to have some elements replicated in some way. So
Cool. Okay, well, I spent much of my time talking with the RDI people, who I get the sense did not read the revised RFP with an eagle eye. So I walked through the changes that we had made, and they were very pleased, verbally very pleased with the stuff that we had done about the AMI, about not having a minimum number of units, about the whole thing about like saying we still prefer that the buildings be developed, but that is absolutely not a requirement, that we made that clearer and that we would, they were happy to hear about the brownfields work that Alex had initiated because that relieves a burden from any developer. And that, rural, small town rural housing community of choice, they were pleased about that. And they are still wondering about the wetlands. But I pointed out the feds have removed so many of the wetlands requirements, which stinks for the planet, but might be helpful for senior housing. um, so generally, and Alyssa LaRose was there, and I have known Alyssa for years and years she used to be at FERCOG, and I worked with her there, and she helped us in the very beginning, y'all, like in 2021, this very beginning in trying to, put things together. And now she's at RDI. So she's a really positive and helpful person, which it's good to have a relationship with. And she has an adorable little boy that she brought to the site visit. And I mean 4 months old little. Really cute. So
How about Carolyn? Did
I
Carolyn?
didn't go.
Oh, all right.
I-
I wasn't there either. Okay, sorry.
yeah.
I
So I think
was
generally
squinting.
pretty positive, but I would agree with Alex's comment that nobody seemed to be looking at those buildings to incorporate them into whatever they were going to do. I certainly didn't get that sense. Maybe I'm wrong. Austin Design was there, and they're the ones who worked with us with the you remember the little like imagining what could be, that whole phase of things a few years ago. So that was great to see them, that they were there and interested. There were questions about what's going to happen with the senior center because if the Sunderland thing doesn't happen, will the town hall be used for that, or I mean, RDI would love to see the town hall turned into senior housing and or workforce housing or something along those lines. It's a great site, right? It's a great place to have senior housing, as we know. Anyway, so that was interesting that it came up. Everybody wants to know what's going to happen with the senior center stuff. And all I said was, I have not got a clue. I think we'll know more after Sunderland, right? Because so actually, Alex and Blake, I don't know if you all can answer this. If Sunderland doesn't pass it in their town meeting, does that mean that it's a no-op for us?
Right. Has to be
Yeah.
all three towns.
That's my understanding as well.
And when did they vote?
Their town meeting is in
Before
April.
ours.
Yeah,
Or
It's usually Friday before ours, but we changed ours, and I don't think they changed theirs, so that would still be April 24th.
right.
That's what I'm seeing too.
So it's just next Friday. It's just a week from,
Okay. So
little
we'll
over a
know
week.
more. And I'm gonna assume that like people like RDI will be and the Community Valley developers will be watching that as well to see what that
Mhm.
turns into. All right. So I thought that I mean I thought a pretty good turnout. It was a lovely day. Um Brownfield status, there is no update. Right, Alex?
Nope, not
Okay.
yet.
The removal RFP, I would like to suggest that we wait. I worked with my AI on drafting the RFP using Massachusetts requirements and all that kind of stuff. But I would suggest that we table that until after town meeting because that is going to require town administration resources, and I think they're kind of spread thin right now. What do you all think?
Hmm.
I think we should wait because we gotta find out what Sunderland. They have a $600,000 override, I think.
Right, but this is
Last I
about the
heard.
removal RFP. That's all I'm talking about.
Right, but it depends then on what the senior center is gonna do. And then, as far, because that's a huge expense
Hmm.
for us. If they vote yes, then who knows, I mean, we're gonna own 50% of the cost. So I'm not sure how people feel in town because, the town hall is perfectly fine. So, and plus we have the white church. So it just, for a couple $100,000, we could get, space versus, over time, it's a lot of money. So, and we don't own it. It would just, whatever. So,
But okay, but I'm talking about delaying working on the removal RFP for the
yes,
buildings
I'm
until
saying,
after
because
town
this is,
meeting.
yeah, I mean, because I don't want us to put any effort into it until we know what we're doing there. But also the town staff is so busy, up until the town meeting.
Right,
So
that's why I'm suggesting it. So
I
you agree
mean,
with that, Pam? How do you feel?
Yeah, I think it makes sense to wait and let them deal with everything they're dealing with, until we see what happens with all three towns town meeting. Whately's got to have their say in the matter as well. But it's my understanding, and I really appreciate Carolyn that you're talking with me the other day because, yeah, I agree. I think it's just we have to wait and see. But it will take all three towns approving the Sunderland site. Once we know what happens with that, then we'll have a better sense of what could happen on our town campus.
Okay, Kathy?
I mean, I think because of town hall, the staff are too busy for that purpose. I think we need to wait. Yeah.
Okay, so it sounds like we're all in violent agreement because Blake, well, actually, Blake, I think I touched this conversation with you earlier today. What do you think, Blake? Should we wait until after town meeting? Okay. All right. Um, so there is the spaghetti on the wall folder with thoughts on what we can do for senior housing, but oh, I know, the rural and small town housing community of choice grant thoughts, which actually I've sort of blended in with the ideas and other avenues for housing. Um, Alex, when does that stuff have to be decided? When do the grants have to be submitted?
So it's run with the Community One Stop for Growth. So that includes a lot of the other planning and economic development grants that the state has. There is a notice of interest towns could submit right now. And then the applications officially open the first week in May. I want to say it's actually Star Wars Day, May 4th, and it closes June 3rd. So
Wow.
Is it mandatory to have a letter of interest, Alex?
it's not at all. And it's on the select board agenda for tonight to talk about too. So we were gonna talk about it's also eligible for infrastructure projects that have a housing nexus. So since septic keeps coming up as a major barrier for, whatever, every kind of housing, we talked about, the town recently completed a sewer assessment by DPC, a consultant that identified a handful of like rehab projects that need to happen in some of the pipes and some of the drainage, the access structures and holes. So we talked about maybe doing something like that. We've also talked about maybe getting engineered plans at the South Deerfield wastewater treatment plant so it could accept private septage. We'd have to do engineering and there'd have to be a hole dug and all that sort of stuff. But we could get planning funds to at least, see how much it would cost. And in a subsequent round, we could actually, go for funds to implement the plans. And then the other one we talked about roughly was just vaguely was like wayfinding signage keeps coming up in a handful of committees. We talked about using it in a DTLA funds from FERCog, but it just kind of kept falling off their radar. So it could be a smaller project, maybe a little more scalable to what we have staff capacity to do. But
That doesn't have any, how does that have anything to do with housing?
well, so the septic does because
What
it's
septic does, but wayfinding, I don't know how that.
oh, sorry. Wayfinding would be like another community one
Oh,
stop
a
program.
different thing.
Revitalization, or downtown investment, some downtown economic development grant program. Sorry, I was
That's all right.
spinning on
You're dealing with a lot of juggling a lot of balls. So it seems to me of those options that the septic processing would benefit seniors and possibly senior housing because of the possibilities of, well, along with the septic review of supporting ADUs throughout town in places where it's not currently able to do it. Anybody else have any ideas that they want to make sure are in Alex's hopper about how things that could help for senior housing?
So does that include like money to continue to prepare the site that we have?
That's a great question.
it could. I mean, it's hard to know what we need to prepare the site until we get back the RFPs, which are due that same like first week. I think it's literally due June 4th, the Wednesday of that week.
But what if we were to submit an application for demolition, and then if we didn't need it, we wouldn't use it, but if we got it, it would be there. In other words, if we find somebody who will move it, then we don't need to use it. I'm sure the state would be just as happy, but otherwise, we would have it in our pockets.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be viable.
So
That sounds like a good idea.
yeah, I think that might be a something to do. Alex, do you want, can we help you? can we draft that grant proposal for you? Because we do not want to add to your work right now, but the timing on this stuff is challenging. But if we write a draft in the next couple of weeks so that you can just grab it after town meeting. would
Yeah,
that-
I mean, it'd have to be supported by the select board, of course, but yeah. And
Oh,
also, it's in the same grant cycle as maybe doing master plan funding, which the planning board's also been talking about for quite a long time. So just so you know, that's in there
But
in the comment.
we're not in
So,
competition, right? We're all it's like, or do you think that they would deny one grant because they want to award a different one?
well, I think they're different grant programs, so I
Yeah.
think it would be okay. More so, do we have capacity to run 3 different grants if we get them? You know, that's kind of where I'm like a little
Yeah.
nervous about that.
Yeah,
The-
but I
The
mean, they
cost.
don't all happen at once, right? Necessarily.
Well, they'd be all on the same like timeline, relatively, right? Starting
Okay.
in timeline.
Well, I guess I would like us to be able to put that all together, and then we can meet with if we just do the donkey work, is what I'm saying, and then we bring it, or do you think actually maybe the select board has to decide whether or not we should do the donkey work, right? That actually makes more
Well,
sense.
that's what I mean. I wouldn't want you to like spend all this time and then
Yeah.
make it a different level and it not be supported.
Yeah.
I mean, we could throw in a notice of intent, like that has no
Okay.
requirement to then even submit an application. So we can at least get some feedback if they'd consider it or not.
How fast does this? How fast does this have to get in the hopper?
May 4th is when the
So,
application opens.
Waiting
and it's
till our
due
next
June.
meeting would be kind of.
Well, and it's due June 3rd, so like we could come up with something pretty quick.
If the select board says go ahead and do the NOI and talk to us after town meeting about the actual grant, that might
Well,
work,
I'm
right?
thinking we could do the NOI and just
Okay.
submit it. I mean,
Okay.
it doesn't force the select board into any position. It doesn't force the town into any position. It's just, we'd say, hey, would you fund demolition of these buildings? And is that a strong enough nexus for housing community of choice? Or would you tell us to kick rocks? I mean, right, like,
But can
kind
we
of-
do that? Let's do that, and then if they say yes, we can do it. Then we trouble
we
the
can have
select
a
board.
better, right, then you have a better conversation with the select board anyway with the feedback.
All right, let's do that because if we can get the money to cover that, that makes it even more desirable for developers, right?
It's a big barrier for the developers that I heard from them was either rehabbing, which was not looking
Not gonna
possible.
happen.
So, and demolition was so expensive, just an added expense, I will say, for them.
So, Jason typed, I would be interested if demolition is supported by citizens first, as the impression given at the original town vote was to incorporate them into housing. Well, the statement at the time was that that would be our goal, and it has been, but that we could not guarantee it. Because especially at the time, we were led to believe that the church was not rehabitable or whatever. But we never did, when the town voted on it, it was with the understanding that demolition might be the way it would have to go. However,
There was no restrictions.
there were no restrictions, and we are
No
going to
restrictions.
continue to see about finding if somebody wants to move it.
Mhm.
He asked them what we be afraid of asking again for. There's no point. The vote happened, and that is what
Right.
everybody agreed to, and we are moving forward with that. So, because the whole point is to turn it into senior housing, always has been, very clearly. So, obviously, we will continue to see if somebody will move it instead. And I know Bob Decker has said he's interested in the rectory, but he has not said he's interested in moving it or anything himself. So I think that's unlikely.
Well, you have to come up with the money for it.
Yeah,
I told him, just in conversation that if he wanted it, he could probably have it. It would be declared surplus and you could have it for $1, but you still have the cost of moving it and no one is gonna pay
yeah.
to move it.
And he wasn't,
You're
at the
not
time,
gonna
he
use
wasn't.
taxpayer dollars to do that.
Yeah, that's what I had a similar conversation with him, and he did not say, "Oh, I will do that." So I don't think he wants
Can you
to.
come up with a cost for that?
I reached out.
Because Alex has what the cost would be.
Yeah, I asked, and I had one firm that was willing to give me a rough estimate. And they said they'd be willing to talk again. They had worked actually with DA a lot on moving some of the historic buildings that are up there. Yeah, the church, to move the church approximately 1 mile would be at minimum 225 to 275,000. And to move the rectory approximately 1 mile, it'd be between 130 to 160,000. But that's not including utilities, permitting, police, or whatever added
Right.
expense.
Yeah, the cost of actually
It
moving.
is pretty expensive.
Yeah,
Well, and the thing is, the rectory is in much better shape than the church is.
yeah.
And everybody that's walked through there has said that. So
No, yeah.
The rectory would be how much? I'm sorry.
130 to 160,000. 100. The church is more about 225 to 275.
I mean, if you're looking at the cost as opposed to turning around and buying a house, he could move it, rehab it, and still be below what
Yeah, current value.
Yes.
Yeah,
this for a house is now.
yep. But who is going to do that? That's the question. You know, question of the ages. Oh, you made me think of something and now it's fallen out of my head. Okay. So, all right, so to recap, you'll Alex, you'll submit an NOI for for
Yeah,
that
I can
grant?
throw in a vague one.
Yeah,
That's fine.
that would be great.
Like one paragraph. It's not.
Yeah.
And like I said, it doesn't require the town to do anything.
Yeah, and if you use the word removal, that would maybe we could use for supporting the moving of it, right? As opposed to, because removal could mean literally moving it removing it from the property, so it might be able to support someone who wants to move it.
Right. Well, and I think the RFP that we've been talking about would
Yeah,
be an
is
RFP.
for removal or demolition. Yeah. Yes.
And those costs were to just pick it up and put it down as is, and there are cases of like neighboring towns, like in Greenfield, I think they, took almost board by board that church down and then
Yep.
moved it 30
They
miles.
did.
So it would be good, and Faith, I think, to, we've talked about also doing like an archival document to document the history of the church and the town, and maybe talking with MHC about what is the best way to make sure some record of it lives on, and if we can't rehab it or get somebody to take it for
Yeah.
some reason.
And along those lines, Carolyn, can we deputize you to talk to Peter Thomas about whatever history he has for that church?
Yes.
Thank
And
you.
I will also see if he'll be willing to work with documenting it, for the archives, because he'll know what the requirements are.
Yeah. And Kathy mentioned the very first application that Chris Harris had for that St. James triptych painting had an awful lot of the church information in it, that because it was CPC money, we said you need to focus on the painting and the artist and not necessarily the religious component, because that could be problematic. But maybe we still have his original application, so there's probably stuff in there that could be used for the documenting of the church as well.
Yes. I think there was quite a lot of work done when they deactivated the church.
Oh, I
Um,
hope so. Yeah, if there's
I
pictures and stuff.
remember there was quite a lot of stuff that was, I mean, I don't remember exactly what it was, if it
Do you
would
remember who
qualify,
did it?
but
Do you remember who did it?
uh, I think it was actually 2 or 3 people
Would
that went
Friends
through
of
the
Deerfield,
archives.
would that have been like Friends of Deerfield maybe?
It might have been. I don't know. I have to go back and look in my, I keep my journals,
Yeah.
um,
I think when Chris
date book
talked to me
journals with
about it,
notes.
I think when Chris talked to me about it, he said he was representing the Friends of Deerfield about that painting.
Right.
And
Um, I might have some information from that discussion, Blake, or even before, because it was years ago. Of
Yeah,
course,
because I
this
mean,
happened.
the thing is,
has
if
anybody,
like if
has
we
anybody reached out to the diocese down in Springfield? I know they've got records of that church
oh,
through
that's a good
them.
point.
I don't know if they give them up.
I think well, I wouldn't say how much they have or how friendly they were about it, because they were, people were really upset they were closing it, and
Right.
uh, so there was a lot of animosity going around about that.
The other
I
thing,
So
can
I'm
see
not
if I
sure
can
how much
reach
they
out to,
kept.
I can see if I can reach out to them.
yeah, that would be
Yeah,
great.
that would be good.
That would be really good. Okay. Um, so Carolyn, you'll talk to Peter and Blake. You're gonna, and Blake, this can happen after town meeting. You'll talk.
I'm gonna put somebody I know a deacon that can go down and talk to him, and
There
then
we
maybe
go.
send.
Okay.
I can't just walk down in there. I'm not that. I'm not in that realm. So I would have somebody set it up so I could talk to them. So
Great. All right. Yeah. Wonderful. Okay. So, I was thinking then, it seems like we are not going to be working on the removal RFP, and that we're sort of hanging fire right now, so that I don't think we need to meet until probably the 29th, just to circle back. How do people feel about that?
That's
Yeah,
fine.
that's fine. Is there anything else that we might have to do between now and the 29th? Can't
That's
think of anything.
I couldn't think of anything. I mean, partly because we don't want to tax the town hall at this time of year. Um, we've got all of our stuff in, and CPC doesn't need anything from us in support, so I think that's that. Okay, so does anybody have any new business that was not anticipated? Nope. Okay.
Nope.
Public comment? Let's see. Jason says he's going to review the video again, and he feels these are points that should have been made at that meeting. I believe they were, but that's totally fine. Go for it. Any other comments from anybody? Okay. Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn and until
I'll make that
29th.
motion.
Okay. Have we got a second from anybody?
Seconded.
And Kathy seconded. All those in favor? Carolyn?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Blake?
yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
And Leela, yes. We are adjourned, and it is 5:36. Thank you all. And stop recording.